From ocean to mountaintop and back again, water flows throughout Belize, an endless cycle, touching every plant and every animal in this exceptional environment. Nestled on the warm Caribbean coast, Belize is a tiny nation, not much bigger than the state of Massachusetts, but its terrain is remarkably diverse, embracing everything from rainforests to lagoons. From the rugged Maya Mountains to the sandy beaches, a great variety of water habitats have influenced the region's evolution and its history. The ancient Maya people understood the water cycle and its importance to the natural balance of their world. They worshipped Chak, the god of rain, for he was the source of water, and water the source of life. The path of the rain god begins in the Maya Mountains, where swiftly flowing streams are replenished by seasonal rainfall. Here, the rocky terrain is among the most infertile in the tropics, and very few nutrients are washed into the waterways. As a result, food is scarce in these hills, forcing many animals to hunt and forage with persistence. The mountain lion is a keen competitor for the limited resources of the Maya Mountains. Agile and elusive, it's the major predator in this region. Constantly alert for potential prey, it must be stealthy to survive. Other forms of life survive in this poor environment by using specialized feeding techniques. Black fly larvae live in high mountain streams where there's very little food. They compensate for the lack of nutrients by feeding with remarkable efficiency. Using two mucus-covered filters, they extract tiny particles of food which will fuel their transformation into adult black fly. As they wrap themselves in silk cocoons, the larvae begin a process that will take about 10 days. Protected by a bubble of air, they float to the surface and fly away. The 9-banded armadillo survives in the Maya Mountains by eating almost anything it can find, from insects to snails and berries. In Spanish, armadillo means little armored one, an accurate name. Thick protective plates allow this creature to escape from predators through heavy bush and thorns. To overcome the scarcity of food, even plants have found unique solutions. The sundew traps live insects using its sticky tentacles as a lure. When an insect is caught in its fatal embrace, no amount of struggling will allow it to escape. In less than 2 hours, the sundew will open, and the insect's remains will be blown away. Food is more plentiful along the riverbanks, where fallen fruit is accessible to animals that forage for a living. Although they are only about 10 weeks old, the young armadillos leave their mother and begin to explore their surroundings. For the young armadillos, to wander freely is to risk a dangerous encounter. Cautiously, the surviving animals collect dry grass for nesting. Their front claws, though not fully developed, are curved for digging and gathering. When they grow older, the armadillos will be well equipped to live in these surroundings. They will become skillful at feeding with their long tongues and sensitive snouts, and their soft, leathery skin will harden into tough, protective plates. In the meantime, they are at risk wherever they go. Still, the armadillos have already mastered certain basic skills, such as working to create a comfortable shelter. For the mountain lioness, even the smallest carcass may be worth preserving for another time. In this unpredictable environment, she might go for days before her next kill. After 4 dry months, the rains return with a vengeance. Streams swell, and the water begins its journey from the Maya Mountains to the valleys below. Over the centuries, some of this moving water has seeped into the foothills, carving out a network of mysterious caves. By a process that takes thousands of years, stalactites have formed on the roofs of the caves and stalagmites on the floors. Here, the river supports very little life, but as it continues on its path toward the ocean, it flows through a lush and wild habitat, a place unlike any other in Belize. On the borders of darkness and light, some unique forms of life have emerged. Close to the cave entrance, fungus fly larvae spin a curtain of fine threads, which they use like fishing lines. Each thread has a sticky substance at one end that acts as a natural trap for flying insects. When an insect is caught, the larva can feel vibrations in the line. And the victim, unlikely to escape, is reeled in to be eaten alive. As the rivers leave the caves, water and light, dense vegetation, and constant warmth combine to produce yet another type of habitat, tropical rainforest. This is limestone country. In sharp contrast to the barren mountains above, the area is fertile and there is plenty of food. Just as in the mountains, the vegetation is richest along the riverbanks, but the waterways have widened, gathering nutrients as they pass through the valleys. The rivers attract all sorts of animals, including the largest carnivore in Belize. This is an unexpected place for a land animal to feed, but the jaguar is wise enough to choose its prey carefully. In these humid conditions, wounds are slow to heal, and a hunting injury could prove fatal. This female jaguar will play it safe, taking easy prey if she can. But she may have met her match. High above the forest canopy, the dominant scavenger is the king vulture. With excellent eyesight, this bird is quite adept at finding food in the overgrown forest, but only certain kinds of food will do. Because it has weak claws, the vulture has difficulty killing live prey. As a result, it feeds mostly on carrion. although it has to scavenge to survive, the king vulture is a master of the air. With a wingspan of up to 7 feet, this is one of the largest and most powerful birds in Belize. The wet season lasts for 8 months of the year, with the heaviest rains always at its beginning. Almost overnight, the land is inundated. In 3 days, as much as 30 inches of rainfall can sweep across the forest. As the floodwaters rise, they carry rich sediment down towards the sea. On the river banks, where the most light penetrates, heliconia plants thrive. Their flowers are a crucial source of nectar for 2 distinctive types of hummingbird. The rufous-tailed hummingbird is brilliantly colored, its prism-like feathers catching the light as it moves. And although it's fiercely territorial, the bird is small enough to perch in safety almost anywhere it chooses. The rufous tail comes in search of nectar and plays a critical role in pollinating the heliconia plants. At the same time, it provides flower mites with a strange and unconventional form of transportation. As each flower dies, the mites crawl inside the bird's nasal passages and hitch a ride to the next flower. The mites are minuscule. They live for as long as they can inside the base of the flower, feeding on nectar and pollen until the blossom begins to wither and die. The long-tailed hermit is much larger than the rufous tail and much less territorial. As a result, this hummingbird covers a lot of ground in its search for food, and it feeds constantly, just to replenish the energy it expends fluttering its wings. The hermit's bill is specially adapted for feeding on nectar. It too carries pollen and flower mites from plant to plant. But the hermit's freedom of movement is not absolute. Certain blossoms may already be occupied by the territorial rufous tail, which seldom likes to relinquish control. The 2 birds compete for access to the flowers, but the rufous tail is by far the more aggressive. It will chase away anything it perceives to be a threat, even so benign a creature as the owl butterfly. Even after dusk, the water habitats of Belize are the scene of constant drama and activity. The owl butterflies arrive in the evening to lay their eggs on the heliconia plants, an activity that seems to enchant this young margay. The margay is a very rare member of the spotted cat family. A graceful night hunter, it feeds mainly on birds, lizards, and frogs. relying on its natural agility to reach its prey. This cub is about 8 weeks old and still depends on its mother for food and protection. 4 months from now, it will be completely independent, hunting for itself. In the meantime, even when its mother is nearby, the kitten approaches every new experience with caution. Night is also the domain of stealthy predators. In the mountains and the lowlands, the tarantula hunts insects and small mammals by lying in wait at the mouth of its burrow. Once it has caught its prey, the spider injects it with a paralyzing poison. Now it becomes an easy matter to drag the victim away. Rather than lying in wait, the extraordinary fishing bats strike from above. The bats live in hollow trees, conveniently close to the water, where they tend to hunt alone. In addition to gigantic wings, they have developed extremely sharp teeth and special claws for trolling on the rivers. The bats detect their prey by emitting high-pitched squeaks and listening for the echoes, which indicate ripples on the water's surface. They quickly analyze the signals, homing in on their prey with deadly precision. Unlike most fishermen, the bat leaves the river after it has made its first catch. Even a successful expedition ends precariously, but there's little danger that the bat will drop its food. Its teeth and jaws are strong enough to hold a fish up to 2/3 of the bat's own weight. And although the animal may use its front limbs on occasion, it can feed perfectly well without them. As the rivers of Belize leave the rainforest, they change dramatically. Fanning out into the open coastal plain, they soak into the land and create a vibrant network of swamps and lagoons. Having gathered many nutrients along the way, the waters have become a thriving habitat, far more rich and varied than they were in the mountains. In the freshwater lagoons, most of the fish are cichlids. They breed during the dry season and make devoted parents. The adults often guide their young through dangerous waters where predators are numerous. The Petinia is the most unusual of the cichlids. About 1 in every 1,000 is marked by a golden red color, like an anointed chief, and usually dominates in territorial disputes. Since their bright coloring makes them an easy target for predators, these fish have become fierce warriors in their own right. In the swamps, the dry season brings a mass of flowers. The most plentiful are the erythrinas. Black howler monkeys make a pilgrimage from the forest to take advantage of their rich nectar. The howlers have such a passionate appetite that they eat the leaves and buds as well as the flowers. Coatis also enjoy the nectar, but without destroying the blossoms. Theirs is a softer touch. Coatis are related to raccoons, but their elongated snouts and bodies give them a sleeker appearance. Like raccoons, they are true omnivores, eating anything from nectar to insects and lizards. With so many sources of food to choose from, the coati is a versatile hunter. Its acute sense of smell enables it to locate prey, while its long claws give it access to creatures that hide underground. In this case, the female has unearthed a tarantula, which she prepares with the skill of a seasoned chef by removing all the poisonous hairs from its back. There's no soft touch here. Tarantulas require aggressive treatment. The preparation is fairly time-consuming, but without it, the spider would be inedible. Plucked clean, but still alive, the tarantula is finally suitable for consumption. The rewards of the hunt are not shared equally. The other animal will have to fend for itself. Lumbering and massive, the tapir is the largest land mammal in Central America, measuring about 6 feet in length and weighing up to 600 pounds. Its closest relatives are the horse and rhinoceros, but there also seems to be something of the hippopotamus in this water-loving animal. Pulling up weeds and other vegetation from the river floor, the tapir manages to stir up food for the fish as well. Like so many other creatures in Belize, the tapir relies on the water system for survival, using the rivers as a source of nourishment and as a refuge in times of danger. As the rivers approach the ocean, fresh and salt water mix for the first time. It's an unusual meeting, but a fortunate one for the mangrove trees which thrive in these conditions. In the branches of these trees, colonies of termites thrive as well. Skillful and industrious, the insects use wood pulp to build elaborate nests, complete with covered pathways leading to their food sources. Because they are completely blind, they have no trouble working in the dark. The workers follow chemical trails to gather building materials. They are responsible for maintaining the nest, and, like overworked caretakers, they are constantly needed for repairs. The predator that causes most of the damage is the tamandua, a tree-climbing anteater. With its keen sense of smell, it knows precisely when a colony is about to swarm. In its eagerness to feed on the termites within, the tamandua will use its powerful claws to tear the nest apart. The surviving termites will have to work long and hard to revive the colony. The young tamandua remains with its mother to learn about climbing and feeding until it is almost half grown. Tamanduas bear only one offspring at a time, and aside from an unusually strong bond between the mother and her young, they tend to live alone. Because they have no teeth, tamanduas feed with a long, sticky tongue, and what they miss becomes a meal for the fish. When the nest is under attack, only soldier termites are able to protect it. They have a special snout through which they squirt a noxious fluid at potential predators. In the face of this defense, the anteaters beat a tactical retreat. Mother and young may return later to resume their attack. Once the coast is clear, repairs to the nest begin immediately. The workers will recover what they can and bind it to new material, using a gummy solution that sets with amazing speed. Near the end of its journey, the water is becoming gradually more salty. Here, resting like an unpolished stone on the floor of the lagoon, is the manatee, or sea cow. This gentle animal is at home in both fresh and salt water and has the distinction of being one of the only vegetarian marine mammals. Still, it has a healthy appetite, consuming up to 100 pounds of vegetation every day. Manatees are often solitary, but when they do meet, they are extremely affectionate and sociable. They come up for air every 15 minutes, and they also nurse their young at the water's surface. Some scholars speculate that the sight of the manatee is what gave rise to the mermaid legend. From these warm and shallow lagoons, the manatee heads for the open sea, following the water cycle to its final destination. Marine islands, known as cays, are welcome havens for migrating warblers, which fly south for the winter to escape the cold. It's a long and tiring trip, and this is their first resting spot. But they must always be on guard. The birds are easy prey for the well-camouflaged boa constrictors that wait in the branches to greet them. At the first opportunity, the scheming boa will wrap the newcomer in a powerful embrace. Within moments, the hapless bird will be eaten whole. The snakes have a true feast this time of year. A boa can make several kills a day and will actually swim from island to island in search of the migrating birds. As the thick mangrove roots reach out into the water, they trap more and more silt, causing the islands to expand slowly. Below the surface, the roots are heavy with pale anemones, which grow here in abundance due to the constant movement of the water. These billowy organisms filter the water as it passes, preparing an ideal breeding ground for millions of fish from the lagoons. Many of the fish also come from the nearby coral reef. Second in size only to the Great Barrier Reef of Australia, this spectacular mass of coral stretches for 175 miles from the Yucatan Peninsula to the Gulf of Honduras. Built on a bed of clay washed down from the Maya Mountains centuries ago, this barrier has protected the mangrove swamps and lagoons from the ocean, creating a magnificent specialized environment that rivals any in the natural world. Beyond the reef, Caribbean birds find safe nesting areas. This island supports a community of more than 4,000 red-footed boobies. With so high a population, the breeding season is a busy time. The bold and colorful frigate bird makes a courting display as well, although its style is more extravagant. Once they find mates, the boobies make exceptional parents. They're affectionate with one another, and they share all the responsibilities of parenting, from incubating the eggs to protecting and feeding the young. Despite this attention, the chicks develop more slowly than most other birds. They have many lessons yet to learn. When they mature, the boobies will have to fly great distances in search of food, and they will do their fishing a long way from shore. They improve their flying skills by hovering experimentally. They will need all the skill they can muster when they head out to sea. On fishing expeditions, the young boobies are no longer safe. They are completely at the mercy of the frigates. These master opportunists are sometimes known as men of war because they ambush other birds, skillfully stealing their food. The aggressive frigates will harass a booby until it finally drops its catch. Since the young birds haven't learned to give up quickly, their struggles can cost them dearly. The adult boobies have an easier time. With their greater strength and speed, they can usually avoid marauding frigates. Between July and October, violent storms often strike Belize, and from time to time, hurricanes leave a trail of devastation in their wake. Below the surface, the storms create rubble zones, and the more resourceful fish convert the debris into homes. The sail-finned blenny finds a well-protected site and is quick to defend it with an elaborate display. The blennies are extremely territorial, and they're able to change color to match their surroundings. The decorator crab uses a more creative means of camouflage. It actually adorns itself by fixing algae to its back. The great decorator crab takes this idea even further. it carries live sea anemones on its back, an ornamental disguise that takes a willing partner. The crab approaches the chosen organism by tapping at its base. The anemone then detaches itself from the coral, and after being carefully cleaned and groomed, it's placed on the crab's back. This is not an abduction. It has benefits for both members of this unusual partnership. The anemones camouflage the crab and protect it with their stinging tentacles. In return, the crab offers the safety of a mobile home and scraps of food. In the wake of the storms, dead coral becomes building material for new cays and islands, and the broken coral that hasn't died soon regenerates itself. In this way, the seasonal storms are a blessing in disguise. Their disruption actually causes change and regrowth, making this one of the richest and most diverse habitats on Earth. Our journey is now complete. From the Maya Mountains down through the coastal lagoons, we have followed the path of the rain god back to the ocean. This is where the water cycle starts and finishes, circulating constantly throughout Belize, shaping every form of life as it defines the landscape. The endless flow of water has scarcely changed for thousands of years, and it will continue to support this wild land for centuries to come.
National Geographic Video, undeniably collectible and affordably priced, only from Vestron Video.